Okay, we are, as you hopefully have just heard, now recording. Welcome everyone to our weekly call, which you'll see from the screen this week. We're joined by Robert Šefr from Whalebone, and Magdalena as well, possibly others from the Whalebone team. I don't necessarily recognise the names instantly. Largely on the back of the announcement a couple of weeks or so ago now of the availability of the DNS for EU public resolver. So Robert will give us an update on that and anything else regarding the DNS for EU project that he wishes to cover. And then, time permitting, I'll sort of have a go at going through some of the sort of news headlines that some of you will have received earlier on today, of which there's a lot of stuff happening at the moment. And just a reminder of some sort of forthcoming events dependent on time. So without further ado, let me stop sharing. Thank you, Robert, for joining us. It's good to see that the project is continuing to make progress. So over to you to hear some more about the public resolver, and as I said, anything else that you wish to cover on the call. So the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you very much, and thank you for inviting us. I'll be more than happy to make it more a discussion if possible. So please, I invite everyone to interrupt me. I have some slides to share some highlights, but please just interrupt me anytime. Start talking, and we will discuss any questions you may have. And I will share my screen now. Okay. Sharing. And please let me know if you can actually see the slides.
Yep, that's appeared. Yeah, and you're now full screen. That's worked perfectly.
Great. Okay. Thank you. So I would like to start with a very brief recap, because we still somehow fight with this messaging about what is actually DNS for EU. So DNS for EU is a project that delivers multiple products or services, and one of the services included within DNS for EU is the service to provide public resolvers. This is what I will focus mostly during today. But as part of the project, we are also delivering products and services to individual governments and internet service providers and telcos. And actually, speaking of the commercial expectations, what we expect, where we expect commercial success and some revenues is actually the governments and ISPs and telcos. For public resolvers, those are provided obviously free of charge, not even offering any premium subscribe services or anything like that. So that's the current state of the project. And the project is supported by a grant of European Commission, where European Commission supports the project, speaking of 50% for having those products and those projects up and running. The other 50% is funded by the consortium behind DNS for EU, led by Whalebone, which is the company where I'm the CTO. So that's for to providing the context of what is actually DNS for EU. And speaking of the recent timeline of the project, we have had the public launch of the resolver now on June 17th. Before before we tested the public resolvers with first consortium, then stakeholders. Actually, the stakeholder group is quite wide at the moment, so it got pretty much public at that point. So we decided to speed up the public launch by 1 week. It was originally scheduled to be a bit later. And the project officially ends by the end of December this year, which does not mean that we would simply shut down the resolvers. Yeah, just to be clear, it just means that Whalebone will be paying for the resolvers 100% on our own. There will be no contribution from European Union or any other party. No questions. I will continue. Some first results of what we have. So internally we use mostly perfops for the monitoring, where we are about 14 milliseconds on average across European Union, which is aligned with our original goal. You can also see some measurements on the right side from RIPE Atlas, and I can see some chat messages going through, which I will immediately open. And the question is, hello, Robert, is there a possibility to assist to this project as external consultant? I'd be offering my services to the appropriate address. Thank you very much, Kurt. Please reach out either directly to me, to Magdalena here, or via the website. We'll be more than happy to discuss the opportunities. We also have some opportunities, like even positions open at the moment. So we may find either a small opportunity for small contributions or for the larger ones. Interruptions are welcome. Thank you, Kurt. So this is for the latency at the moment, and we started. I hope I will have. No, I don't, but I will use the website. Yes, we have the coverage of the resolvers. We have the distribution at the moment throughout Europe like this, which was a distribution that we, after several consultations and measurements, decided to go for the optimal latency with the initial number of resolvers. It works quite well. Yet what we see at the moment is that latency speaking, it's good. Load wise, we have the Germany and Netherlands nodes like heavily not overloaded, but processing much more traffic than all the other nodes throughout EU. So what we expect, we will be doing some juggling with the nodes, most probably all over the Europe, since these central nodes in the major hubs are getting much more traffic than the other ones.
Robert, you'll see a question in the chat from Alexei, who runs an IXP in Finland, and is offering to host one of your nodes there. So he's asking what your requirements are.
So at the moment, I'll get to it. At the moment, we partner. We partner for convenience reasons mostly. We partner with Data Packet as a company that hosts for us the hardware and runs the BGP. And we will get probably to the discussion also later on. So at the moment, at the current moment, we are not looking for additional partners, but it's highly probable that it will happen in the future. So we are very happy for the offer, Alexei, and thank you very much. We will be we are collecting these options, and there is a good chance that we will use it in the future, since also Finland does not feel well covered, latency speaking, at the moment. So it may be one of the reasons where we will be looking in the future. And I will ask Magdalena to save the contact details. And Darren, I can see your hand in the air.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, done a good job bootstrapping the EU itself with resolvers. Have you given any thought to people traveling outside the EU that are using your resolver? Because obviously they'll face greater latency if they're, traveling for business or pleasure elsewhere in the world. I'm just curious about what your overall scope is for that.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. At the moment, we see the biggest usage at home. Not really, and I would not really encourage people configuring hard configuring the DNS resolvers in the mobile devices, since they may encounter issues with captive portals on the go, etc. So we don't see this use case that often. Most use cases are really at home at the broadband, which is fixed. Setting the DNS for EU IP addresses. So at the moment we don't plan getting abroad. It may, however, happen if we will see more opportunities and more use cases worldwide. We would like to scale more. It may happen that we will merge the infrastructure with the infrastructure that Whalebone is running, which is our older infrastructure, which already is running worldwide, with lower capacity only for limited use cases. And we may decide to go worldwide and support the same IP addresses worldwide, and to share the infrastructure. That would open this kind of opportunity. It is not, however, on the roadmap up until 2025, definitely. Yeah.
There's a couple of other questions also, Robert, in the chat. One from Eric on the concentration of traffic in the Netherlands and Germany. Is that because of more usage in those countries, or because of routing exchanges through regions like AM6?
Well, it's a very good question. Yet we don't have the data on the source IP addresses, since we are anonymizing everything. It keeps us somehow blind. We will have some visibility into the source countries eventually, which will provide the answer. However, my best guess is that this is a result of the routing exchanges, and exchanges. I'm almost sure. I'm almost sure this is the root cause. Yet it still makes sense to boost the infrastructure there.
Yeah. And then final question, perhaps before letting you move on. Kurt has asked, is it anycasted?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, of course. Yeah, it is anycasted. So all these nodes, they share the same IP ranges, IPv4, IPv6 ranges, and again we will get there. But basically, different IP addresses from the same IP range will provide you either protective resolution or protective resolution with child protection, ad blocking, or simply there were requests to get unfiltered resolution, where really there is no filter at all. Even speaking of any lawful filtering, etc., there is nothing. It's a plain DNS. What you ask for, you will get, if there is no technical issue, of course, but there is no blocklist flag. All right, so I'll move forward, and please keep it coming. Looking, I just discussed with the team to have fresh data for last 24 hours. at the particular usage to provide some insight on the protocol distribution. So, like mostly popular is the UDP. Still, quite some popularity in DNS over TLS. Just a few percentage points of DNS over HTTPS, and some TCP, which is probably some result of fragmentation. I wouldn't assume anything else. So this is maybe not that interesting, or depends. What I find very interesting on the right side are the choices of the IP addresses and of the actual flavors of DNS for EU public service that the users decide to use. So the most popular one is the unfiltered IPv4, so the clean one, and basically the same or very similar percentage is the protective IPv4. Protective meaning only blocking selected high-profile threats, malware, phishing, scam, etc. Maybe worth highlighting that the public service only offers a subset of what we maintain within our research team. So the full threat intelligence scope is only available for the commercial offerings for the governments, ISPs and telcos. So on the public service, it's just a subset. Yet still, we believe it's a valuable subset and really helps to protect against local and global malware and phishing campaigns. And then still, we are quite surprised that the ad blocking takes about 1/5 of the traffic. So it's still quite a popular choice of the users. We are also getting some occasional feedback about some false positives, which is natural, I believe, within ad blocking. It will simply happen from time to time that we will affect the behavior of some websites or applications. Although in general, I believe it behaves quite well and it can provide some very good experience being online, especially on mobile devices where the choices may be limited. And Tommy just commented that more encrypted DNS than DNS over TCP. Yes, yeah. And why, Tommy? Maybe why are you surprised? What would you expect?
I guess I would have expected DNS over TCP to be bigger than either DO or DOT still at this stage. But I guess looking at the comparison between UDP and TCP, I also expected more fallback cases even when people start with UDP based on other things, but clearly not. In context, we were just having a discussion yesterday on an IETF mailing list about can we prefer DNS over TCP because UDP has additional considerations. And someone pointed out that it's not as widely used as one might think, and I'm clearly correct.
Yeah, seems so. Okay. Yeah, I would. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's mostly for the larger parts. That's also what we see, and also we see TCP usage in some networks with weird MTU, also resulting in switching the clients into TCP. There is another question from Alexei. If all destinations do DNSSEC validation? Yes. We don't provide any flavor without DNSSEC validation. So all of those are implicitly doing DNSSEC validation. All right. One small highlight right after the launching the service and communicating openly. we have seen a DDoS attack on randomly generated AWS subdomains, multiple sources, many different /24 IP ranges, and or not that many, but some, and mostly since there were not so many, it was mostly mitigated by rate limiting that we have applied on the resolvers, and one node temporarily affected, meaning like increased CPU usage that we have observed, and found some possible signs of some memory leak that we are now discussing with CZNIC as the node resolver developers. Then seeing some more messages going through. Okay, that's an ongoing chat.
I think Andreas has raised his hand, so that might be more specific for you rather than the stuff.
Please, Andreas.
Yeah, indeed. You also mentioned about this DDoS attack in the stakeholder meetings a few weeks back. Is this attack still ongoing, or did you see the DDoS traffic going down, or is it still at the same high level?
The DDoS attack was, as outlined on the timeline, we have seen it for about 1 week, 8 days. Yeah, so it was, we handled that quite, I mean, it did not cause any issues, yet we still applied some measures, and then it simply stopped in 8 days. So that was my guess is that someone just wanted to test, to try something, and that's it. No major thing happened. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, then some other highlights that I asked for. We discussed with the team. Maybe worth pointing out that we have the rate limiting applied. The rate limiting is enforced on the resolver level, where we leverage the new module of not resolver from CZNIC. There are good blog posts, very in-depth technical blog posts on that module, how it was developed, what is the logic inside. So it's not a very simple rate limiting. It actually prioritizes the queries with lower impact on CPU and memory, and therefore keeping the resolver available for regular clients rather than the clients that are trying to push through more expensive queries. We are now rate limiting to something like 1,000 queries per second, but we will be playing with the limits somehow. Then one highlight: at the moment we don't have HTTPS or TLS certificates for Anycast IP on the resolvers, and we were very happy about the Let's Encrypt announcement of on the ability to provide the TLS certificates for IP addresses, and the team is now looking into it, how we will adopt and apply the certificates as well. So we expect the coverage to come quite soon. Then a highlight maybe, because usually when we deploy DOH, we usually combine the not resolver with an additional reverse proxy in front of the not resolver to handle the HTTP traffic. We have decided, based on the benchmarks and based on simplicity and troubleshooting, we have decided to go with the DNS over HTTPS service directly hosted and listening by not resolver. So far it works very well, though we have some minor reports on clients using the older protocols. than TLS 1.3 and HTTP 2. It's not that it wouldn't work at all, but we have seen some reports there. And let me check the chat.
You've got a question from Kurt, or potentially the CGNet may be be impacted by the rate limiting for CGNet on mobile devices. I'm wondering whether perhaps, because it's quite early days, Robert, for the deployment, perhaps that might be more of an issue as traffic levels pick up, but I don't know if you've had noticed any impact as yet.
No, not yet. Yeah, so it seems we haven't. I mean, I agree with CGNet. It may be an issue. However, getting back to some researches on which users usually configure the public DNS services. It's mostly fixed broadband. So for mobile devices, you will still see more than 99% of traffic handled by the telco, not by the public DNS. So therefore, the CGNet in this case for mobile devices should not be of much concern. Still, it may, and it happens that some households and some internet service providers will leverage network address translation even for small municipalities, etc., and that may be of some concern in those cases. Yet the adoption is not on that level that it would be of concern that a whole municipality would suddenly configure DNS for you for public. Yeah.
I guess that'd be a nice problem to have, Robert, at this early stage.
Yes.
I see Kurt, by the way, has raised his hand as well.
Yeah, I think there may be a chance to put in something like an opt-in rule that people can submit simple single addresses that they would use this service because they have such a big infrastructure behind. I mean, I understand the rationale behind rate limiting to restrict overloading the system and everything, but still there may be small number of addresses with large configurations behind that are legit to use the service, and you don't want to restrict those.
It's I mean, it's definitely possible to reach out to us and the team to discuss this. What we do in these cases, especially with internet service providers, that's where we offer the commercial services. So what you can have is that you can have your own instance of DNS for EU in the network, hosted for the customers, providing some much more opportunities for you as a telco or internet service provider on what can be achieved, or if we mutually agree, then yes, we would be definitely able to configure the rate limiting, to exclude or to adjust the limits for certain ranges and IP addresses. But overall, how we present the public service is that we aim it for individuals rather than for large companies or internet service providers. We aim to go there with the commercial service that offers much more.
And just before you move on, there's a comment in the chat which you might want to just touch on from Alexei about if any additional measures beyond rate limiting to mitigate the risk of resolvers being DDoS amplifiers.
So we combine on the not resolver level there is this rate limiting, which is the resolver level measure. In front of the resolvers, we have the opportunity to filter out volumetric attacks, which is the thing that we do together with the infrastructure provider with data packet. So this is the combination: protection against volumetric attacks in front to protect the bandwidth, and on the actual resolver to limit what the number of the CPU time that we provide to the individual clients.
Perfect.
And okay, some information about keeping the cache warm, and maybe some highlight for us. It's one of the it's definitely the biggest opportunity where we are using this, and that's the XDP mode on getting the packets directly from the network interface to the CPU, skipping some operations within the kernel, so being much faster and optimizing on the performance and latency, which is a mode that not resolver supports. Usually we are quite far from the hardware, so this was the opportunity and quite large deployment of the XDP on the XDP listening, and it works pretty well. So I encourage everyone, if you are interested, to go for not resolver documentation and look for XDP optimization. And yes, we have had quite some number of feedback and reactions, and people sharing the information about the DNS for EU for public going live. There was, to me, and it was really encouraging, surprising number of positive sharing and reactions. I was very happy about that. Then there were the regular suspects, a few things mentioning things about sorry, just dropped the word. You can definitely help me when the state doesn't want you to share any information. It does. How is it called?
Or like sort of transparency requests for.
No, I mean the censorship. Oh, sorry. So that's the regular what we are hearing, the censorship, because it's EU related. It definitely has to be censorship. It's not. I would like to highlight that EU or European Commission supported the project in a way that it appears it starts, and but it was from the very beginning, it was expected to be a commercial to be a commercial service, which is not controlled and which is not influenced by European Commission. European Commission doesn't even have any special permission or right in data access or configuration, nothing like that. They are like completely shielded from this, and there were like zero discussion about any influence on any block lists. Yeah, so no censorship is included. I keep repeating this because I feel it's quite important. And we have seen this post by Jens Link. I hope I'm reading this name properly, which I find very good, and it's a feedback for our team that we definitely underestimated some things in speaking of communication and how we set up services. So I would like to, and it basically the post discusses how much EU is in DNS for EU, and it challenges some of our decisions to use some services, and I believe it challenges them in a good way. So I would like to shed some light on how we decided for some of the services. So how we approach the decisions. Within our decisions and within the choice of technologies and services, we chose to go for everything which will be DNS related or data related or infrastructure related directly to the DNS traffic, or the backend for the resolvers, to be controlled from within EU, to support the idea of EU sovereignty in this case. Which means in our case, it's mostly these three providers: the backend, Scaleway, controlled from France. Cloud DNS, which we use as an authoritative provider for the domain join DNS for EU join DNS for EU, which is actually pretty much critical to run the whole thing. So that's controlled from within Bulgaria, also a member state of EU. And for resolvers, we chose data packet, which is controlled from Czech Republic. But yeah, the issue highlighted by Jens is that it's a company originally set up in UK, but it's owned by a company from Czech Republic. So they have a formal headquarters in UK, but it's owned and controlled from within Czech Republic. I don't think that Jens did that research, and it's probably understandable why not. But I just wanted to explain that we did this homework to check where from are these company controlled, and if it is aligned with the expectations of EU sovereignty. What we probably underestimated or we didn't even discuss was some like supporting services and tools, which we simply decided to follow what Whalebone is using internally, not to cluster, not to introduce new tooling for new project, not to make it too difficult for the team. So we simply went what we are using internally, which is Google Workspace for collaboration, and for website hosting we use HubSpot, which both are US companies, it's true, and we didn't think about this like public image part of the publishing, and it's highlighted by Jens truthfully, but it does not. On the other hand, it does not impact the service and the data processing itself. So I wanted to provide this insight also here with you. And do we have any questions? No, we don't.
Nothing new in the chat at the moment.
And this is a profile of our product manager, not mine, Michal Havelka, which I didn't replace with mine. Michal is the product manager behind launching the joint DNS for EU. So either you can reach out to him, of course, or as Magda highlighted, let me also provide the update here, because I will be sharing the presentation with you, Andrew. So in case you would like to reach out, please reach out via LinkedIn or email. I'll be happy to. Sorry, Michal.
Well, he'll be able to see he was there.
Yes. And Andreas, you have your hand in the air.
Yeah, one question about the quality of your blogs. So you're live for a few weeks now. Did you get any complaints about the protection that you're providing? So are people complaining still to run into malicious websites which you're not blocking, or maybe the other way around, that you're blocking even websites that are safe actually and should not be blocked? Did you get any feedback from the customers about this?
Yes, most of the feedback was related to ad blocking at this stage. Yeah, so it was mostly I'm using your ad blocking service, and this particular website or this application behaves weird. So this was most of the feedback. Why I think this is most of the feedback is that for the malicious, for the protective DNS, we as Whalebone, we are running protective DNS worldwide with many telcos, with some governments, and therefore we have loads of feedback from vast amount of users. Actually, much more than the number of users using these public resolvers. So we are able to identify most of the false positives early on, handle them, and also the false negatives, and have them handled early on elsewhere rather than on the public service. So it's not the expectation that we will. For us, it's not the major source of like understanding of the threat landscape. It contributes somehow. We do the research on top of this on top of this DNS traffic, and we process these reports. Yet, as mentioned, most of them were related to the ad blocking.
Just a follow-up question, if I may, on that, Robert, because you talked about the article from Jens Link. I saw also, I can't remember who it was now, so you'll probably be more familiar with this than I was. There was a comment about data being supplied to government. So it was an oblique reference to data retention policies. So do you want to talk about to things like sort of GDPR compliance and so on, which might be a useful thing to just cover?
So, I mean, our privacy policy and data processing policy is available online on the website. Of course, I mean, it's something you can. I mean, eventually it still ends up with the trust with the party. Yeah. So, but what we do, it is what we discuss with the European Commission. Whatever will be put there. We challenge it with the consortium. We challenge it with the team. We discuss the algorithms and the principles of the anonymization, on the data processing, etc. This has been discussed quite thoroughly with the final principle of that we don't store any IP addresses, plain text IP addresses. We just use them to process the request and the response. And there are, I believe there are like 2 exceptions described even in the policy. One is the rate limiting. So whenever we apply the rate limiting for the protection purposes, we collect the IP address to be able to understand what's happening. And there is another exception, and that's the core dumps of the software. So whenever the resolver crashes, there is a chance or there is a good probability that there will be some plain text IP addresses within the memory of the resolver. We will use it to find for the root cause of the crash, and there is also an information for how long and who can work with the crash dumps, and that we store it for, I don't recall exactly, but it's something like 30 days, and then we erase them completely. Yeah, so there are like these exceptions. And yes, we collect the information about the actual DNS traffic to be able to use it for research, for statistics. We don't share the data with anybody, except at the moment, and that's also described there, only the anonymized data, and in some cases only subsets with the 2 consortium members, which are the universities responsible for research. And we impose some security requirements and compliance requirements on how they use the data, when they remove it, and what they can do with the data. It only can serve for the security research related to DNS for EU and protection of European citizens. Yeah, and so there is no other sharing happening. You can ask as a company, you can ask consortium and Whalebone for data sharing. We can consider this. We would impose the same security requirements, and we would only approve this if this will contribute to the protection of European citizens.
Yeah. Yes, so if people are interested in that, they can always read the sort of detail in your sort of policy online. But that's a pretty good answer.
Andrew, if you know the detail in the policy, can you please share it back with us? I can look into it. If there is some weird,
I think it was just a generic suggestion that there was a concern about data,
Okay.
but I think you cover that pretty comprehensively, Robert. So final question, because I'm just keeping an eye on the time, from the chat. Alexei has asked whether any Whalebone people are active on chat.dns.oark.net. So is Whalebone a member of OARC? I don't
Yes.
remember.
We are, and we will be now. We had some changes in the team. We will be introducing some new people to the chat as in DNS org, especially this specialist responsible for the public service. He will be joining there, and he will be available there for discussions.
Perfect. Okay, well, I am sort of conscious of the time, so let's wrap it up there. But I think that was really helpful, Robert. And you've already preempted my question. You're happy to share your slides, so thank you in advance for those. I'll share them with people after the call. And hopefully that's given people a lot of early information. As you said, it's only, 3 weeks old as a public resolver. So it'd be interesting to see how things develop over the coming months. But yeah, that's a very comprehensive update for such an early stage in the project.
Thank you very much for inviting us. I believe we will, whenever we will have some major new updates to share or new data, I'll be very happy to share again in, I don't know, 6 months. Let's see what's happening. And I would like to excuse myself now. I have to jump to another meeting. We'll share the slides, and thank you for the discussion, all the questions, and having us. Have a nice day.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Robert. Okay, well, I hope that was everyone found that really helpful. So it's a comprehensive update from Robert. And as he said, I think it is only about 3 weeks old as a public resolver. So it will be fascinating to see how things develop over the coming months. Now, let me very briefly cover some other things, which I'll do just at pace. And then I'll share the slides afterwards so people can catch up with them at leisure. But I just wanted to highlight there's a lot of stuff in the news this week, which those of you on the weekly headlines mailing list will have received already. If you're not and want to be, pop me a message and I'll add you to that mailing list. But firstly, the IAB Internet Architecture Board, jointly with W3C, are running a workshop on age-based restrictions on content access, which they're planning to run in early October in London. It will be face-to-face only, so in-person only and by invitation only. And there's a deadline of the 31st of July for submissions of papers. And I think if it works as normally applies to most IAB workshops, the invitations to participate will largely go to people that have contributed papers. So anyone that might want to participate in that, I wanted to draw that to your attention. It's up to the end of this month to put those papers in. There's also a really interesting paper. It's an academic paper from some Saudi academics from a range of institutions looking at AI-driven cybersecurity and basically using it, a learning model to detect malicious domains. And they claim over 98% accuracy from their research, but it's a longish paper, but worth a look. Also, the DNS Research Federation has published their quarterly league tables covering registrars, top-level domains, and they've now, this time around, added ASNs as well. So that's a new addition this quarter. And basically, you can see where abuse is taking place by looking at the performance in the league tables. A couple others are highlight a paper from Infoblox on allow listing and why that by itself is insufficient for security purposes. Something we touched on at least tangentially in our discussion about zero trust in the DNS last week. So it was timely to see that come out from Alec Chu at Infoblox. Whalebone, as Robert's just left us, put out a paper on protective DNS. So that's obviously Whalebone rather than DNS for EU, but you may find that of interest. And then the last one, I'll reference on this slide, third one down, a series of 4 papers from Cloudflare on sort of AI-led crawling of sites, which look at the what's crawling, the volume of traffic that's being introduced through that AI-led crawlers, tools that are available to help control crawlers, and most interestingly, the final one, an option to pay per crawl. So, as I say, 4 papers in total. You may find it worth looking at those collectively. I'll just skip over most of these. Just one other on this slide, a paper that was published, internet draft to the TLS working group at the ITF on SNI, or specifically on encrypted client hello, a rather blunt title of ECH considered harmful. And for entertainment value, the 3 main sections of the report are titled ECH is misguided, ECH is not effective, and ECH is harmful. So it's fairly clear what view the author holds. Sort of joking aside, there was an interesting comment in the related chat in the mailing list with a suggestion that some aspects of ECH may break the TLS specification. It'd be interesting to see if that's expanded upon. I'm not sure that the paper as drafted will progress far within the working group, but you never know. But I thought that was a particularly interesting comment. Again, I'm just pulling out the most interesting one. So bottom of this slide, the next ICANN meeting, the AGM, which was due to take place in Muscat in Oman. It was announced late last week. It's been relocated to Dublin. So it's the same timing, so 25th to the 30th of October, but in Dublin now rather than in Muscat. So anyone that's already booked your travel, you'll need to reschedule if you're still planning to go to the meeting. And there's a whole bunch of other things. Again, time won't really allow us to cover. I'll just highlight one, which is have LLMs broken fair use. John Levine, I think it was the author in Circle ID, and he just highlighted 2 current or very recent US court cases, which between them concluded yes and no, I think. So essentially highlighting that there's a lot of work to be done within the judicial system as those go through the sort of appeals processes. So it's early days. We should see how they turn out. And then just in the last couple of minutes, a few other things. If you want to put a presentation in for APNIC 60 later on this year, they'd extended the deadline to this Monday, so to today. So if you want to put a paper in, you've got to close of play today. I think it's midnight tonight, but do check that. Similarly, if you want to go to the ITF 123 in Madrid later on this month, the early registration cutoff is also today, and I think that's 23:59 UTC. It usually is, as is the cutoff for internet draft submissions. That's also tonight, 23:59, and then on Wednesday, that's the deadline for draft working group agendas. So we should start to see most of the agendas sort of drop in over the next few days. So just bear those in mind. Most of those are today, and then say the working group agendas on Wednesday. And then other deadlines later, but we don't have time for those. In terms of events, Net UK 2 is running as we speak in London and runs tomorrow, and then we're only a couple of weeks off now from the start of ITF 123 in still very warm, not quite as hot, but mid-30s degrees centigrade, I think, at the moment, Madrid. So do bear that in mind when you're packing if you're planning to attend. call next week where talk about the agenda for the ITF 123 meeting. So I'm hoping I will see some more working group agendas before then. So I'll highlight things that look particularly interesting on the call next week. So that's it from me. Thank you to our sponsors, as always, DNSOR, for their support for the call, which is much appreciated. And we are completely up to time, but I will share these slides and also Robert's slides in the next day or two. So you'll have those to peruse at your leisure. So I hope that was useful for everyone. And with that, I'll stop sharing, say, have a fantastic week, and hopefully see you on the call this time next week when we talk about the agenda for the ITF 123 meeting in Madrid. But otherwise, have a great week and see you then. Bye, everyone.